pleasure to introduce internationally acclaimed composer Halim El-Dabh.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for inviting me here. I'd like to thank every one of you and Denise Seachrist for inviting me and the people who work here. Thank you very much. The subject is the creative connection, Europe and Africa. And the subject is vast, really. We could stay here for a whole week and don't, in a way, don't leave this room until we finish that. However, I'm going to limit my talk to until about 9:15, so I'm not going to stay a whole week. We can cover in this creative connection many things. We could cover music. We could cover politics. We could cover race relationships. We can cover colonialization, wars, devastation. Everything can come from this two continents separated by the Mediterranean Sea. But we can say that all of it rests on something. And something that I want to emphasize or concentrate on, because I'm not going to cover all these areas, is the tone. So we could, instead of covering all the other dynamics, which I will touch upon, we touch upon the idea of a tone and how the tone and the vibration is basically the creative connection. I have with me here, this has a tone. So the tone is going to be the basis for everything. The idea of a tone and its movement and its vibration. Notice that it's right there. It buzzes. You know, it's a very powerful thing. It has a vibration to it. And what I have with me here, my intention is to relate these instruments, and I have a piano here. So the creative connection I'm talking about is what happened to the instruments, the transformation that took place. Because you can identify some of these instruments that appeared in Europe and became something else. It could have become a zither and another instrument. So that transformation is part of the creative connection. Whether it's transformation from Africa moving into Europe or from Europe moving into Africa. So then I'm going to relate the drums as the basis thing. So all the sounds really are inside the drum. And then I'm going to look at the piano and play the piano as a drum to begin with, as an instrument that is a drum, basically, that has all the sounds of the drum. So, and it's all related together. One of the things that actually stimulated this whole idea was when I stood at the Strait of Gibraltar. I don't know if all you know Gibraltar. And the biggest creative connection was the march. tens of thousands of Africa today, as I talk to you, are marching into Europe. Tens of thousands. That's creative connection right there. It doesn't matter who's taking over who, but there is a movement of coming and going. So as I talk to you, there's thousands and thousands. Africa is impoverished, there's disease, there's AIDS, there's Ebola, and the creative connection. Some even said that in the London Times, 15 years ago, they said the World Health Organization introduced AIDS into Africa in vaccination. It's another connection. See, when you talk to the sages of Africa, they say, well, the spirit never dies. The spirit never dies. So you talk to the Babalawos, you talk to the big priests and priestesses, they say the spirit doesn't die. It doesn't matter. What happens is the entanglement of the soul. So it doesn't matter who kills who, or who takes over who, because it's all in the balance, and the balance is the tone. And so when we're talking about creative connections, we're talking about the tone, the vibration. The things about Nigeria, one of the greatest things I learned in Nigeria was, I was with Chief Fela Shawande, a great man who died here in Randall. And he showed me a bust or a head. The head, one side of it was black and the other side was white. Actually, there were two colors. And I said, gee, how come they have black and white on the same head? One side of one's face, it had two faces. And the two faces were different. One was black, one was white. And he said, well, they are part of the same coin. So the principle of the same coin is the most powerful principle. So the same coin, it's the same thing that it has, it's like the Chinese say, the yin and the yang, the two sides of the same thing. Or like the pharaohs of Egypt say, the pharaoh rises over the twin land. So the twins are part of the same thing. And all the twins of Nigeria are considered blessing. In other areas are not considered blessing. Actually, people don't want the twins. It's all this dichotomy of one against the other to get the balance. And the balance is the tone. Or the balance comes in the pendulum. So the greatest connection is the pendulum has to come in the middle somewhere. So one side is black, one side is white. But it will actually balance. But how? So that's the thing. And therefore, music, the tone, is the most powerful thing in the whole connection. It's more powerful than economics. It's more powerful than science. It's more powerful than technology. It's more powerful than politics because the tone is very powerful. So the tone of this and the tone of that, the simple explanation, this one has a tone. Has a tone. And actually, another tone. And you see from the creative connection that these instruments became big and huge and organized. And the organization tends to structure things. While these instruments are unique and cannot be mass-produced, things could be structured and mass-produced. So the creative connection comes when you mass-produce something that shouldn't be mass-produced. And there's another here, another tone. Each one has a specific little tone to it. The fascination is that the whole string area can see the connection. It started, the River Nile, if you travel, all the kids have little violins. And all the way from Alexandria all the way, if you can, connecting the rivers of the Congo. In the Congo you have violins like these that you can play. The kids have little violins, so, and you can see the creative connection there. Then I have, here too. Wood. You have to realize the material itself, the creative connection of the material. The wood, things from animals, got a snake there, flora, height, the whole relationship of environment, material, the whole thing that moves back and forth from one continent to the other, that engages people in different aspects of the engagement. And so we have all that. And this is wood. It's like rosewood that you carve, and you tune the instrument by carving it in here. Then you carve it at the tip to change the tuning. Let me see if I can play this for you. Take my shoes off. Yeah, I use my legs as resonators. People in Africa you could use their legs, you could use stones, you could use a frame, you could use banana stalks, any kind of innovation to connect to that tone. And so the tone is very powerful. And to leave the tone, and speak about other actions. What is this march thing I'm talking about? People marching across. The state of Gibraltar is about 12 miles, but you can put rafts. And back in about, I think 380 BC, some guy took elephants on these rafts. Can you believe that? Some guy took some elephants across those rafts. He was very upset with Rome. And he said, I'm going to go there and check the Romans. So he went, can you imagine, have you seen, this is Iberia there. He put those elephants, he put some 12,000 horses, 19,000 men marching. And he started from what you know as Libya, and he marched. And that's in BC. He marched into Europe because he was mad that the Romans came and made 19 colonies inside of part of Libya and that area of Africa. And he said, I'm going to check out Italy. Well, it wasn't Italy. There was Etruscans. I don't know what the language was, because still they don't know. But he actually marched, put the elephants across, and he recruited army as he walked. He recruited army from North African people. He recruited army in Spain, what today is Spain. He recruited army from Gaul. You know what Gaul is? It's France. He recruited army from Helvetia, what's today called Switzerland. He climbed the Alps with the elephants. He had about 38 elephants, from 38 to 40 elephants. And he lost a lot of them, but he threatened Rome, and before he died, and he returned to what was called Carthage. And then, you know the man's name, don't you? Hannibal. The man's name was Hannibal. And he actually was a major that was rebelling against the presence of Rome in Africa. Actually, the Romans started calling it Africa at that time. What the Egyptians call it Bantu. Bantu means, the word Bantu is used differently today, but the Egyptians call it Ba means soul, and Tu means man, the continent of man. So while the Egyptians called it the continent of man, Rome called it the continent of people of dark or burnt faces. So that is the creative connection right there. So on one side, there's an ebb, and on the other side, there's a tide. The basic thing is the pendulum. Which way it goes. When there is a war, the pendulum is stuck. When there is an abuse, the pendulum is stuck. And it's the consciousness of whoever is doing it is going to be stuck. And but the pendulum has to continue. So the creative connection pushes together. And that connection. So the second march was Khalid ibn al-Walid. I think that was the name of the conqueror who moved there in the 7th century. There was many interactions between Europeans marching into Africa and many of Africans moving into Europe. The movement continues, and I say today as I speak, there's a lot of people moving across. So that is the connection. Now we play the drums, talking about the tones of the drum. In 1947, I did a work called Evolution and Decadence. In this, I'm going to start with the drum and use the piano to express the rest of it. So I move to the drum to show the tones of the drum, and reality is the piano is a drum. And that's why I moved to the piano. The piano is a drum. So I'm going to move from the drum to the piano. And I'm going to do that kind of evolution from the one tone, from actually simplicity to the complexity. And I don't know, I'm not going to tell you which is the decadence. I guess you have to figure that yourself. Anyway, you can find out what's evolving and what's decaying, but everything is death and resurrection. So there's no, according to the sages of Africa, the sages actually of the Druids of Europe and ancient Europe, they have similar ideas between them, because the spirit doesn't die, the soul gets entangled, and it's the pendulum that has to reach one way or the other to bring those two elements in one coin, or those two different faces in one bust or one head. So the drum, I'm going to go with the drum and do a performance of evolution and decadence. I shall move to the piano. As I say, it's a drum. It's the same like those drums. It has all the sounds. The drums has all the sounds. pause for a minute just to absorb what happened in this evolution and decadence. vibration, as I say, is the most important part because it's greater than all the other interactions. Does somebody want to tell me what is the evolution and what is the decadence? Some volunteer. Which piece was the most pleasing to you? Excuse me?
Yeah.
The piano. The last one?
The last one, the piano.
The last one of the piano, okay.
Because of the complexity.
Of the last one?
Heard that it's more complex
Than the other ones, okay. So is complexity decadence or?
Not to me.
Not to you, okay. Anybody else? John?
I enjoyed what you did in the beginning because there's more going on rhythmically. Because when you went onto the piano, some of what was going on in terms of rhythm was kind of taken away in order to bring in more tonal-wise.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he thinks the beginning is more rhythm to it. Okay, that's good. I mean, that's wonderful.
Drums.
Huh?
Drums.
The drums.
The middle.
In the middle, okay. Well, more volunteers, speak up. Yeah, the drums actually have all the sounds. The last one is more pleasing. But talking about the creative connection and the balance, it's a very soothing, the last one. It's actually, the melodies are calling, right? And the melodies calling, in a way, it takes you away. It's like a pain relief. It takes you away from the confrontation of the balance, the yin and the yang, the twins, that which will allow the balance to take place. So you got a pendulum here, going like this. And that pendulum, okay, the creative connection between Africa and Europe, it's a human connection. It's gold connection, because a lot of gold in Africa ends up in Europe, or vice versa. Well, it hasn't ended up from Europe to Africa yet. But it's race connected, it's fear, it's anger, it's disease connection. And when you be satisfied, the more I give you from the last one, the more you feel you've done your job. You're satisfied. You're on a throne, because the emotional aspect has been taken and the interactive aspect has been left out. See, the last one reflects what we call closer to mainstream music education, right? I should ask Dr. Seachrist. More to, which I do not advise. I do not advise teaching mainstream music education not because anything, except it's going to take away the chances of the balance. Taking away the fact that things has to find the one coin, that the twins realize they're one of the same thing. And each one has to realize that. So, and it's a way of getting stuck, because once you get stuck, the pendulum stops. The soul disintegrates with satisfaction. In other words, I'm on top of it. I feel great. People could die, but I feel great. I could send bombs, and they feel great. I feel all right. It doesn't matter that I'm stuck also. Because inside, according to the sages of Africa and the sages of Europe, in the ancient time, when you bring about some of the lost treasures of ancient Europe, talking about the Pyrenees, the Druids, the gypsies, all the people who did not follow what came out later. During those periods when Hannibal took the elephants over there, the fantastic thing about Hannibal group is there were Africans, there were a mixture of North African people, there were Spaniards in his group, there were Italians, Swiss, Albanians people. They were part of that army. They were all looking for the same thing. It's amazing. I don't know how Europe looked like in 300 BC, what the Alps looked like. But there was something that's fantastic, because there was a group of people who were thinking of one thing, rather than saying, well, this guy is so-and-so, this guy is black, this guy is white, this person is green, this person is a Muslim, this person is a Christian, this person is a Jew, this and that, because it didn't matter then. It really didn't matter. So, when you think about the tone is the vibration helps the pendulum to actually move until it starts balancing. And this is when one discovers that, like Shawanda said, that the two sides of that head, the two faces, are part of the same head. It's just one head with two faces. It's a yin and a yang. And like the Pharaoh said, he rises over the twin land, upper and lower. They balance each other. And it's that kind of situation that the sages, that we call them, there's many names to the people in Africa that are high, call them, they are really, they're involved in divination and understanding the whole concept of the universe. And they understand the balance of that galactic relationship. So today I'm talking about the tone, and how the tone of the drum really encompasses it all, in a way. Of course, the piano expresses it out. The piano is a big drum. It's a wonderful instrument, and I love it, because I sit there and it gives me all the sounds that I want. I can do more things if you can ask me questions. I still have like 10 minutes to go on. This is a very fantastic flute actually from Chad. And it has a wonderful sound. It's burned inside. It's like a bamboo. It's heavier than a bamboo. Almost like a tree material, but it's a heavy bamboo. And it has a nice sound to it. This instrument here is very unique, because I don't think with the highest technology, you can't really tune an instrument of that complexity. This is a high-tech instrument made by hand. I don't think any possible way to manufacture this, because it's reed material picked up, pulled up, and each one has been braided to create the sound. And pulled out from there, and no matter what a person can do, you can't really recreate that. It's a zither form, and thus the resonation is incredible. The fact that when you see somebody making that, it's really how you pull it out and stretch it and get the right tone from it. This is a very high-tech instrument made in a very simple way. The other thing is the movement of the body. The movement of body is very important. The movement is, when an African and the European move, before, in the ancient time, they moved similar. But then, after the invention of the Industrial Revolution, after the Gutenberg press, after turning things that you write by hand into a mechanized typesetting, the movement of the body changed. So the creative connection here is that the movement of the body has to come back, because, again, the movement of the body encloses the space around the body, and not in the ballet. Ballet always actually draw the line in space. It doesn't enclose the space. An African encloses the space and encloses the relationship to the earth. In the ballet, is taken away from the earth and line up the space in lines formation, in a visual exterior line formation. And that's another creative connection that has to be. See, one cannot condemn one for the other, because they're all the same back to back. As we say, humans really, according to African, nobody dies. Everybody lives forever. However, you can get stuck. That is the whole thing. You can get stuck in the process of being forever. So that is the whole creative connection here. And not to be stuck. How to get stuck? You're stuck when you push the pendulum too far by an engagement that delays the soul from its normal being. You know, wars in Africa, as we know, in the traditional sense, nobody hits somebody from the back. You don't shoot somebody from the back. That's a crime. You don't attack a lot of people at once. That is the basis of it. Now I know they do that. They got guns, and they got, you know, they're being given to them. But if you go with a bomb and drop it on people without seeing them, face to face, that's a crime, because you don't see your enemy. In traditional African society, you gotta see the enemy face to face. You gotta hit the person that you see face to face. And that's in the traditions, but now has been changed. So the pendulum stuck up there until it balances back. You know, one cannot say this is wrong and this is right, because that's against the pendulum. The pendulum just shifts around, you know, because still it's going to come back. So basically, actually nobody died, basically. But you could die and get stuck. That's the whole thing. You can't come back unless maybe another 100,000 years, or maybe, who knows, you might get stuck. But the whole idea is a collective kind of relationships, a creative relationship. They understand the forces of the two sides of the same coin, two sides of the same thing. That actually there are no basically. There was an article in the Beacon Journal 10 days ago that actually said, the scientists said, there are no races. This is all invention. But of course we have races. We've got to live it up because we made them. So we have to push the pendulum until we balance it. And so basically on the tone, we finish with the idea, with the drums. I'm going to play the tone on the drum and then we finish. Give the vibration in the room. The drums are actually going to play, not me. I'm asking the drum to play the sound they want to play. So I'm waiting for the drums to speak to me.